The Driftless Initiative is multi-state, includes Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. This stretch of stream is approximately 2 miles long that we're working on. The reason we're doing in-stream habitat enhancements is to provide better trout habitat for brown trout. They need cover, they need adequate food sources, and they need ripples like when they're spawning in the spring. It takes willing landowners in order to make projects like this work. The 2 landowners we're working with right now on this property and the next property up are excellent. I mean, they're cooperative and working well with us.
When I originally bought the property back in 2002, 2003, the stream side you see here was densely inhabited by a variety of trees, and access to the stream was extremely difficult. I would say the average stream side was about 4 to 5 feet high. The banks were widening, the trees were falling into the stream. Beavers were relocating here. It was damming up. It was very hard to fish. There are fish, mainly brown trout, in this stream. They've removed about 300 to 400 trees along the bank. They've cut it down. They've added rock, riffles. They've preserved some of the springs that have hindered trout run. If you look at it from what it was to what it is today, it's truly night and day. It's a fantastic project.
The reason that these projects are so important, for one thing, is we're in such a unique area. Nowhere else in the United States do you have such a high concentration of spring-fed streams like we do here in the Driftless. What a unique gem we have here. We have over 5,000 miles of cold water spring-fed streams. The Natural Resources Conservation Service is really kind of the foundation for almost all of our projects. We've been doing farm bill projects like this for over 30 years. One of the primary funding sources for this project is a farm bill program called EQIP, an Environmental Quality Incentive Program. And that's the foundation we use for a lot of our stream restoration projects here in the Driftless. Partners are big parts of our stream restoration projects. If it were just bank stabilization, you might think of this as just a Natural Resources Conservation Service project. But since we're including fish habitat, and now we include a lot of non-game habitat, and then we even pollinate our plants, so partners are a big part of our projects.
In my area, we have over 1,000 miles of trout stream, and we have every kind of trout stream, from big rivers to little tiny trickles to brook trout streams to brown trout streams. Trout Run is one of our best streams, all natural reproduction. I mean, they were stocked years and years ago, but they're reproducing, great populations, good size structure, and good habitat. And there was a real opportunity to actually bring it back up to speed. It's a very, very popular trout stream. The stars aligned to make it a good candidate. Well, NRCS is an excellent partner. They know agriculture and engineering better than I do. And then when they want to know what the populations of the stream are, what kind of fish live here, how do we build the best habitats, that's the stuff that I can do. We always get questions about shade on trout streams. And in many parts of the Midwest, that's very important to have shade on trout streams, because the water that comes into the trout streams is from surface water runoff. And so they need to have shade to try to keep the water cool. In the Driftless area in southeastern Minnesota, our water comes from groundwater. It's 56 degrees coming out year-round. So our streams are actually warmer in the winter and colder in the summer, so our trout grow year-round. And so if we take the trees down and get good grass and forbs, we get a lot of in-stream aquatic vegetation, and our productivity in the stream increases, and then allows the bugs and invertebrates to grow on all that stuff that actually get us more trout biomass than we do with a fleet of box elders and buckthorn if it's all invasive, saturated floodplain.
And the other thing is that when you have a lot of trees and they're shallow rooted like the box elders, they often shade out the grasses. So you just have the broadleaf plants. And so we see some of the highest erosion rates. It was where we have wooded corridors.
The stream had gotten to a point where it was starting to erode, get very shallow, and it was starting to have some high banks, which then accelerated the velocity of the water, and during rain events could really cause dramatic erosion. Once the NRCS and the DNR and Trout Unlimited identified the fact that it could really help with shedding water from rain events, they came in and started engineering the project, which was reducing the banks, the height of the banks, and leveling out the sides so that the water could get wider and slow down. A lot of the work that's been done here started with removing a lot of the invasive species. We had a lot of box elder. There was a tremendous amount of shading on the creek, which unfortunately reduces the amount of oxygen from photosynthesis in the vegetation, and trout need a lot of oxygen. So one of the first things they did was come in and remove the trees, the clumps, the debris, the dead trees, and then they started removing the excess bank, which was at sometimes 6 to 8 feet high above the water. So what you'll see here is they've opened it up, allowed more sun to hit the water, which then increases a lot of that aquatic vegetation to be more prolific. And then they removed the dirt and started to seed over the top of boulders that they brought in to create hiding spots for the fish.
So when we used to come down here before, we had a small trail, and then the grasses would grow up, and then we'd have poison parsnip and things, many trees, and it was very difficult to kind of navigate around. But now when we come down, it's all cleared away, and it's opened up to this just absolutely picturesque, beautiful landscape.
Well, I've been fly fishing for, I don't know, 30 years or more, since I was in high school, I guess. You know, I'd say how you approach a stream is about 90% of it. You want to be, in these clear streams, you want to be fishing upstream, unless the water is really discolored, because you'll spook the fish, and they're usually not interested in eating if they're spooked, other than maybe the really little trout. So probably most important thing down here. Tiny little one. One of the juveniles. Little guy. It's a brown trout. Is it in his second year, maybe? 2-year-old. I'll slip him down in here.
Well, what we do with habitat improvement is we put rock and other materials so when the river is flowing at normal flow, we can actually engineer and place the habitat that's best for trout. We do it with wood, we do rocks, we do weirs to actually enhance the structure of holes. And we try to develop the habitats for all the life stages of trout. Spawning, rearing, juvenile habitat, habitat for large adult trout, all those kind of things to try to address those issues using a way they'll stay long term. And then we slope the banks so that when the water goes up, it spreads that energy across the floodplain and doesn't overly scour our stream. And you can see some of the aquatic plants beginning to grow here that's going to basically provide the food for caddisflies and other invertebrates for the trout to eat.
These are probably the most heavily engineered projects that we have because of the dynamic and the wide variety of things that can happen. And streams and rivers are living dynamic systems, and it's hard to get that prescription exactly right. You try to design these to a certain storm event that when the storm event is exceeded, that water, excess water in excess of the design storm has a place to go, and that's floodplain. And here you can see that we have a lot of floodplain available. So in a 2-year storm, this stream will bounce up probably and get to the top of the bank. Anything more, water starts to distribute over the floodplain. This does a couple of things. It'll take pressure off of the stream bottom. We'll remove some sediment out in the floodplain. So when that water starts moving a little bit slower, if a heavy sediment load is there, it'll drop and dissipate out on the floodplain versus in channel. The natural streams that are in very good health have access to a floodplain. They will continue to carry their bed loam. They don't want to chew away at the banks. They will keep the channel bottom clean. As you start to get a gradation of the bottom, sediment coming in, this stream would maybe want to get wider. And as it gets wider, then it gets shallower, and then we get more sediment. We don't have more of that pebbly, gravelly bottom that most of the streams would have. When you take a look at the banks, if we don't naturally have a riffle pool kind of a setting, more than likely you'll have down cutting. Again, they are dynamic systems. They do want to move. We can't stop that. The thing that we do want to stop is the excessive erosion, bank erosion. Predominantly, the sediment that is choking out streams, and the big problem is flood sediment, and most of that comes from stream banks. It is not the overland sediment delivery from ag fields. Most of it is coming from bank erosion.
You know, we often use the Natural Resources Conservation Service designs as part of our projects because those are true tried practices, and when it comes to bank stability and things like that, they've got that figured out.
Our role in the project was to conduct a geomorphic assessment pre-project, and we're also involved with the project design, incorporating different design inputs, and then involved with wetland delineation, permitting, and construction oversight. Our goal was to take the draft preliminary plan and incorporate additional habitat features, come up with the appropriate pattern and profile for the channel, and to design the different inputs that were installed. The main habitat improvements involved large woody material, so large root wads, tree trunks, and large boulders are the primary habitat features. In general, it's probably going to be 2 to 4 years before the riparian vegetation really becomes established, and that's when we would expect long-term stability to occur. I really like this setting because there's a couple of bluff areas that are right adjacent to the stream, so it really adds to the complexity in the floodplain and the diversity of the different species you'd see. The green or bluish hue that you see over the soil is a hydraulic soil stabilizer or a hydromulch that's applied, and typically we install our native seed in a cover crop first and then spray it with this hydromulch, and that promotes germination and kind of holds soil moisture and promotes that germination of the seed. The cover crop is really important for allowing soil to become stabilized with the plant that's quickly to germinate. It generally germinates within a few days, maybe 5 days, and it's allowing some rooting to occur before the natives, which typically can take 1 to 3 years before they really become established. One of the main benefits overall doing a project like this is by lowering these stream banks, we really capture a lot of sediment that's coming from upstream, but also reducing potential erosion that would occur and flow downstream.
Our biggest problem in streams like this is bank erosion. And we were losing literally tons of soil, and with that tons of soil also is phosphorus. And that phosphorus fills other habitats and then also runs downstream to the root and down to the Mississippi and down to the Gulf of Mexico. By making these streams better, we're actually preventing some of the damages downstream.
This is spectacular. Been hoping for this to be done for about the last 10 years. Watching the flooding knock down the stream banks and all the erosion and trees falling in the water and such. This has been wonderful. I'm extremely pleased with how everyone has worked together, and I think this is one way that we can keep the natural resources the way they're supposed to be.
Why do we do this? This is what we get a chance to leave. Maybe we have the opportunity to get some young folks out and get them involved in fishing, conservation, what it takes to maintain something like this.
Overall, I think the project's been a great success thus far. A lot of people have come out and seen this, and the landowners have been very positive about it.
This is an area where we knew if we did a project, we'd get a great response from the fisheries. It was highly erosive, and we had willing landowners and a field office to work with. This particular project, we worked with a Winona field office, Sue Glendy, the district conservationist. She was very helpful. She helped us, getting access to the property. She helped us work with the landowners. We had permits involved here, contracts that needed to develop. There was quite a bit of involvement with the local field office to get this project pulled off.
Landowners that are around here are already asking questions of how they can get in line to get stream bank work done. The landowners are interested in doing this type of work because it protects their property and actually increases the value of it. And they're concerned about the wildlife, and they're concerned about the trout stream to maintain it and make sure it's productive for the next generations. And we look forward to working with anybody that's wanting to do this type of project.
I don't know how many times I went to the Winona County NRCS, but Sue Glendy made it happen. And all it took was a little bit of my time, a lot of her time. This whole project is my attempt and our attempt, Friends' attempt, to preserve, protect, and improve the wonderful nature that we have. Earlier today we saw an eagle flying around, deer running through. We have our turkey population, coyotes, fox, you name it. And just last week, I'll tell you, I saw a nice-sized brownie downstream, but I won't tell you exactly where or how big.